The user interface is a 320 by 240 pixel HMI LCD screen. You have the two dual activation start buttons on the side, an emergency stop button on the front, and the power switch on the back and the data port on the back. So let's start by powering up the machine, turning on the switch here, and comes up with the logo, some support information, and automatically goes to the next screen where it's asking you to home the carriage. So you just press the home key and then you just wait until the homing is done. It may take 10 seconds, about 10 seconds to finish the homing, but it only needs to be done the first time when you start up the machine. And it would automatically go to the test setting where you left it the last time. So this is now set to the baby formula tour bottle or package. The sample ID, the last sample was number 2. I'm going to reset that to not 1 and start my testing. The home position for this bottle already determined. If you, for some reason you have to change it, you can manually jog up and down to the right position where you would like to start from, and enter that number in the test home field, and then you can press the home key and that's going to bring it to the home position. And that home position is associated with this test recipe, so if you change to a different test recipe, the home position will automatically follow. But I'll show you that. So when you put the tour bottle in, you can start the test. It will graph on the screen, and you can see the deflection down there. And when it reached 0.3 inches, which was my set point, it stops the actuation. And here you can inspect your peak values, go into a specific load cell or force point, and then look at the peak force, the position at the peak, and the time elapsed variables here. The graph is scaled to the graphing limit X and the graphing limit Y variable on the test on the recipe screen. When you go to the more, when you hit the more button and look at the variables on the top, graph limit X is defined as 1 inch, graph limit Y is defined as 50 pounds. So from here you can take the product out, you can put the short bottle in, because I already actually let me show you how you determine the home position for the short one. So you pick the next record, you press more, you use the jog button to drive the carriage down, and then you look at the variable position read 3.4 inches. So you enter 3.4 inches in the test home field, and then you can press the home key, and from this point on this position is set up as the home. So the next time you press the back key on the test, when the test has ended, it will bring it back to that home position. And then if you want to go back to the tour bottle, then you press the you hit the previous record button and press the more key and then press the home. That brings the carriage to the home position for the tour bottle, and from here you can run your tests again. When the test is done, I can just hit the back key. And anytime you can reset the sample ID anytime you want to. Unless you reset it, it will keep incrementing. So it will, every time I do the test, it will display the graph. It will stream the data out real time to the PC where you can capture it. And you also have the option to go to the main menu and the data log and inspect the values again. it will store 500 records, 500 of the last 500 tests, and then you can clear the table on the screen. You can send all of the data that's stored in the data table or in the memory to the PC, and this will send out the peak values, or you can you can just transfer one record at a time by pressing the appropriate keys here. So calibration, I went through calibration data log. The test is pretty simple. Here you can enter the name of the product, the lot ID, there's a sample ID. You can automatically increment the sample ID by going into setup and enabling a variable, which I'll show you later. You don't have the option to select a different force unit. You are logged into pound force. If this will become an issue in the future, we can address it, but for now the unit is only measuring force in pounds. The speed can be adjusted between 0 and 20 inches per minute or even more, but I only tested it up to 10 inches per minute. The start force, I set it to 50%. This will tell the machine to immediately apply 50% of the motor's running torque when the test is started. So it will the motor will apply a constant 50% torque, and if that's not enough, you may have to increase that variable, but most of the time for the quarter-inch travel it will be fine. The EOT means end of test trigger. It's set at distance, and I set the travel limit to 0.3 inches. You could define a force limit or a time limit if you wanted to, but you probably won't use that anyways. When you hit the more key here, you could determine a new home position for a different product by jogging up and down and then looking at the position and entering that position to the test home variable failed, and that will associate that test home with this recipe. You can also associate a graph limit x and graph limit y variables. The x variable is the distance, the y variable is the force, the maximum force and maximum distance. The values will be scaled so it displays the graph properly on the screen. And then in the setup, default password is 1111. For the calibration, the password is 1113. So when you enter the setup, you'll see 4 different menu points. One is timer. You shouldn't really do anything here. It's already established as well as I could, and I think you don't need to change that. Passwords, there's a calibration. There's one for calibration, one for setup. You can change it to the same password or you can leave it as is. There's also manual mode where you can jog up and down, look at the position and look at the force readout. Also activate the dual start buttons and look at the variables, the acceleration, speed, torque variables on the screen. These are in servo native units, so it's not in inch pounds or not in inches. You could drive the carriage to the home position in manual mode, which I'm not going to do now. If you want to check the force, you can zero the offset and then push on it and look at the readout. In order to check the calibration, you put this little puck on and zero out the offset, and then you put the weight on, and then you inspect the value on the screen, which is 9.999 and fluctuating between 10.002 and 9.9999. And if you want to check the other one, then you press put the holder on, again zero the offset, and then put the weight on, and if it reads 10.0 something, then you're okay. Next one, zero it, put it on, reads 10.0, zero the offset, put the weight on, reads 10.0, zero, all good, all the sensors are calibrated. I've done this a couple of times already. I was just showing you how to do the calibration right. When you're done calibrating, you can remove the connectors. kind of easy to remember from the TV. Red, RGB white, red, green, blue, yellow, and you can disconnect the cables from the head attachment. Put it back on, secure it with the screws, and then put the connectors back on. Now when this is done, your offset will be off, so you have to press the 0 offset again, and that zeros are the offsets, and from here on you can accurately measure the torque. And then just to make sure that all sensors are connected properly, you can start pressing on them and inspect the readout on the screen and make sure the readout is changing proportionally to the applied force.